Black queer Jonathan Capehart interviews the president, then is interviewed by Queer News Tonight. This week in Queer News Tonight broadcast at the National LGBTQ Task Force Gala at the Miami Beach Convention Center. The event was attended by more than 800 of some of South Florida and the nation's most influential advocates for LGBTQ plus equality. The gala theme was Red, White, and You, and our estimates are that more than $1 million was raised for vital equality Get Out the Vote programs, South Florida charities, and much, much more. Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network was the premier LGBTQ media sponsor for the historic 26th annual event. Anchors, including myself, Fay What, Francia, and Kitty Meow presented a special edition of Queer News Tonight that celebrated honorees like Stonewall Douglas survivor and student activist X Gonzalez, the Libby and Seth Gadinsky family for their ally support of the LGBTQ community. The star-studded and glamorous event featured a cocktail party, dinner, entertainment, and then an after-party hosted by legendary drag queen Athena Dion and singer Ada Vox and many others. Special interviews were included in the special edition news show with Katie Fang, who presented the National Leadership Award. There was also a special interview with the task force executive director, Kira Johnson, that you will see tonight. A highlight was the presentation of the National Leadership Award to MSNBC and Washington Post journalist Jonathan Capehart. The queer Black commentator is one of America's most recognized and respected journalists. Just Friday, before coming to the interview with Queer News Tonight, Capehart flew on Air Force One for a special extended interview he did with President Joe Biden. In the interview, he talks about that interview and his feelings on whether Biden will run for re-election in 2024. Capehart also talks about the dramatic moments the LGBTQ community is facing in Florida and across America.
I am so excited to meet Mr. Capehart. We have him here tonight.
Yes. And absolutely no introduction necessary. Katie Fang has already sat this evening and sang your praises. Of course,
Yes. We'll talk mad stuff about you.
Yes. All of the secrets. The LGBTQ community, of course, needs no introduction. Jonathan Capehart, you're being recognized tonight in the National Leadership Award. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Here in South Florida. Being in an event like the National Task Force, what does it, as a gay man, what does it mean to you?
I've been trying to find the words. I remember way back when former Mayor Dinkins, another organization 15 years ago wanted to honor me. And I was like, why are they honoring me? Why did they? I haven't done anything. And he looked at me and he said, Jonathan, never deny anyone the opportunity to honor you. I was like, oh, when you put it like that. But to get this award from the task force really was, I mean, it's an honor that I can't really put into words. I'll try to do it tonight in my speech, but it's the National Leadership Award, which all I do is write and talk. That's what I do. But it's the task force that does the real hard work of like walking the halls of power and demanding equality and justice for us, for our community. And so for this organization to say, hey, we see you as a leader, we want to honor you, is just something that I hold right here. I don't know how else to.
Well, this is just a short sample of Capehart on Saturday's Queer News Tonight. We will show you his full interview tomorrow on the only LGBTQ plus daily live evening news broadcast in the world. The interview was exciting because Capehart learns as he sits down in this that we are doing live LGBTQ evening news daily at 8 o'clock. And I had a conversation later with him and Katie Fang about that, and that was a great moment. He talks about a number of things that were really important to me. I'm an uber Morning Joe fan at MSNBC in the morning, and he's on the show frequently. PBS NewsHour he's on frequently. Of course, editorial board at Washington Post. But MSNBC and what he has done there has been revolutionary for gay and a person of color. And it's a unique bucket that he talks about in this interview that is really what is so important in him winning the leadership award from the National Task Force and what his representation was. And of course, the timing could not be any better. The day before he's on Air Force One and he talks about his experience. And one of the things he says I'm most excited about was not talking to the president, but getting to fly on the plane.
Right?
You know, that's a unique moment for LGBT to experience and a person of color to experience, and for us to experience, and talking to him so fresh from that experience. And by the way, he's going to completely say whether Joe Biden's running for president.
Hey, I loved his humility. He was just a nice man. And I'm not going to give away what he said in the interview, so you guys can watch it in full. But let's just say that he came out 30 years ago, okay? And when he was a young black man, he didn't think that he would be sitting in the chair that he is today.
Yes, that's
so
right.
humble. I mean, and his representation is just so key and wonderful. And when you think about MSNBC and then you think about Fox News, you know, I mean, it's like
Absolutely.
he is fighting the fight every day.
And that's why it's a well-deserved honor. You really deserve this for sure.
And talk about a special moment. I got to tell him to his face how proud of him I am. And for me, as
fangirl.
I totally fangirl. The same thing happened to me when I saw Rachel Maddow on the street in New York. I totally lost it. But to tell him as a rising black and queer news anchor how much this meant for me was so special. So thank you, Happening Outs Magazine and Hotspots Magazine, for the opportunity.
My favorite moment in the night was the honoring of the Gudinski family. You know, if you've been in the movement, and I've been in the movement for 20 years, as a baby gay coming into the movement, you know, I had my
gay.
Yeah, as a baby gay, when I had that moment, right, when it was like you're being mentored by somebody who's just cares so much about our community, and to be in the presence of Libby, especially, who takes care and just is so meticulous about how she has done her activism, not just in a philanthropic way, but also in rolling up her sleeves, right? When we prepared for this gala, they called me up and they said, Orlando, do you have any pictures of Libby? And I went back to 1993, back to 1996. And what is it? It's Libby in the trenches, you know, counting the voter rolls, doing get out the vote work, doing the kind of work that we beg queer people to do today for our own community. And there is an ally, right? There's an ally who as a entire family have dedicated themselves to our liberation.
Yes.
Not their liberation. Ours. And over time, I mean, they have a queer daughter now, but back in the day, that was not known. That was not, you know, sort of
They weren't
that wasn't that motivation, right? And so it was just such a heartwarming moment, and I think it's because it's so much more local and so much more close that for me that definitely didn't have a dry eye in that moment.
Thank you for that, because Queer News Tonight's number one value is to tell stories. And I love that you share that story from the 90s about her and her involvement there. One last story before we move on to Orlando. It is not lost on me at one moment that we're sitting there doing a live queer evening news show, and we're getting ready to interview somebody like Katie Fang or Jonathan Capehart, who just got off Air Force One interviewing the president the day before. And the story is his story. And our story is our story telling his story. And at the exact same time, we have an anchor, you, who is sitting there, who is fangirling or fanboying over his representation and how it washes over you. And you open that segment that Fay is telling, and you open the segment as a story of going, I went to school across the street at Miami Beach High School. I could have never dreamed of this moment.
Wow.
Our community is all about stories And we've got to remember in this very difficult time we're living in to tell these great stories over and over again, because that's how we'll change people's minds.
Absolutely.
Great story.
Hearts and minds.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.